welcome to the Space Policy Show. I'm Colleen Stover. Today is episode 110, and we're talking about commercial government integration in space activities. Now, we've actually talked about this quite a bit on the Space Policy Show. I'm just going to read a couple of things here. We started off at the very beginning talking about this commercial government integration concerning space flight, remote sensing, public-private partnerships, spectrum usage. Along the way, we've talked about cyber concerns, workforce competition, rideshare regulation compliance, commercial readiness, the legality of dual use, maritime protection and that kind of integration of the two, and challenges with space situational awareness data, and even off-planet living. So a lot of stuff that we've been talking about with this integration. But today, we are going to bring it a little bit closer to home. We've got two aerospace experts, two leaders in the company, the corporation, Debra Emmons and Danielle Bernstein. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah. So Debra, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask you to give a little bit of introduction of yourself and some background. Now, you've kind of come up through the ranks of aerospace, so to speak. You have a communications background, and now you're kind of the head of a lot of cutting edge technology across the corporation. So just tell us what you do for the company, and then what kind of perspective you might be bringing to today's conversation.
Sure. So today I'm the Chief Technology Officer and Vice President. I've been in that role since January, and I've had a number of different roles at the company. But the CTO portfolio is pretty exciting. So not only do we manage and invest in key technologies and capabilities, we also have our prototyping portfolio there. So a lot of taking ideas to the lab space. So that's another really important part, is actually the hardware and the software part, bringing solutions to customers. And then another exciting office that we just launched in the last year in partnership with TechCrunch was Commercial Space Futures. And so now that's another really important thrust aligned with our strategy that we are working through across the enterprise. And really, Commercial Space Futures is really about helping us position ourselves to be that enabler for that government. So really helping to harness the capabilities of commercials. There's been tremendous innovation. There's been tremendous investment. So being able to take that capability and help that get into the ecosystem faster, help our government customers and offer solutions. So that's a really exciting part of the portfolio, and it's really new for this year.
Right, that's great, thank you. And now, Danielle Bernstein, you are a leader in our federal programs, Federal and Civil Programs Directorate. So you've got kind of a software background, but you have a really broad background across the space industry. You went from maritime to space. So tell us about what you do for the company and what you're bringing to the table here.
No, thank you, Colleen. Appreciate the topic today. It's really exciting. So my background, I've spent most of my career in the defense and aerospace companies, mostly, working on developing products for the warfighter, if you will. And now I have the opportunity to do that specifically for aerospace. I'm really excited about that. And as Debra was saying, one of the things that we do within the company and our engagement with commercial is ensuring that we have a very vibrant commercial space industry, and that just gives our government customers more choice. And really, as far as I'm concerned, and I know Debra feels the same way, that's really what it's all about. So if we have this vibrant industry, then our government customers are able to have more choice in the marketplace in terms of following that national policy to buy commercial first if they can, versus building something. And so my end of this commercial piece within aerospace is looking for those opportunities, though, in terms of bringing the aerospace capability that's grown up after 60 years of supporting the space enterprise and all of that expertise, and bringing it out to industry where industry needs it, so that we can help industry work over those really, really tough technical challenges and get over that hump, if you will, to bring their products and their capabilities and expertise to market. And so that's the part that I focus on. And so as as you saw with Debra, it's very, very exciting to be in space now. And with the space economy and the space industry growing so quickly, there's so much opportunity. And that's just really, it's an exciting place to be.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, both of you. I'm excited to be here with both of you. So it seems like there's a wide variety of expertise here in the room, but the impetus to this show is, you mentioned it, Debra, the TechCrunch event that's going to be taking place soon. And so Aerospace, along with other companies in the space industry, are going to be taking part of this TechCrunch sessions in space. And I guess I'll start with you, Debra, if you kind of tell me a little bit about what Aerospace is doing there. Tell me about the TechCrunch thing as much as you know. I mean, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it because we really want to dive down into the topic of the integration, but just a little overview for our viewers.
Yeah, so TechCrunch has been a great partner of ours, and they partnered with us last year as we launched the commercial space futures industry. Now, they are a media company, and they tend to work really closely with a lot of the investors and venture capitalists in general. And so what's exciting here is they're connecting and working with the investors, but really connecting it into the space area, whether that's in space travel, some of the revolutions in communications, Earth observation data. So this session next week is specifically about the TechCrunch in space. So they really have been helping to bring us and connect aerospace to a larger set of investors and new commercial companies. And really, we're looking at commercial capability in general, because you don't have to just be a space company in order to bring capability and solutions. We have some of the really critical cutting edge technology and artificial intelligence and machine learning. And these are not companies that are space related. They're really more in the data analytics side of things. And so then they're combining that event during the week with also a voice of the warfighter. So that's where an opportunity where Aerospace is really connecting more with the end user, the warfighter and operator, to really discuss the tactical and operational needs. So this is really the first time in bringing such, in some sense, disparate groups and communities together in a really exciting way. So I think that's really going to be an exciting time next time.
Nice. Danielle, can you add to that?
Yeah, sure. I think, as Debra said, this is just a really exciting opportunity. And I think it's really speaking to the excitement in space, in that it is an opportunity for everybody. So as we push further into space, into cislunar and beyond to Mars, there is opportunity to leverage all kinds of technologies, all kinds of expertise. I mean, this is really sort of a whole of humanity effort, if you can imagine, right? Moving beyond Earth, to other planets. And so, aerospace obviously has a lot to bring to the table there, but there are so many other players now. Commercial is moving very, very quickly. They've got their own research that they are putting forth. But beyond that, I mean, space is for everybody. And so it really is an opportunity to leverage all the various domains, technical domains that you can imagine, aside from, for example, just the biological sciences and getting humans to operate safely. There's AI and machine learning and data analytics and just all sorts of opportunity to really bring everybody under that space umbrella, if you will. And it will take again, like I said, sort of a whole of humanity effort for us to be successful. So to me, that's part of the excitement of being part of this effort and moving further into space.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of different technologies, and I know Aerospace is, so Debra had mentioned the voice of the warfighter, and that piece, but you were talking about a lot of different technologies, and isn't Aerospace also kind of sponsoring an ISAM, or in-space servicing and manufacturing program?
Well, Aerospace has been investing heavily in that area, and that's part of certainly what we do, is trying to look, beyond where the industry, where the economy, where our customers are today. And so we have several initiatives investing in in technologies that need some development, and absolutely ISAM is one of them. We're obviously part of Confers and related efforts. And so that gives us an opportunity to engage with industry directly, and we very much appreciate and value those engagements. It makes us all a little bit smarter. But that and it, in addition to just the effort that we had evolvable ecosystems, and as you can imagine, there's just a whole lot there going on in terms of refueling, servicing, on orbit servicing sorts of things. So getting into all of that really requires kind of everybody moving in the same direction. And that's part of what aerospace brings to the table, is some of that alignment between government customers, alignment with industry, and even beyond the government opportunity. I certainly wanted to mention opportunities outside of the government mission, where there's opportunities obviously for the commercial industry. There are segments of the industry that have yet to be developed. People talked, sort of pie in the sky, if you will, about asteroid mining, and someday it will happen. And so we have some basic capability today, and we're moving in that direction. I mean, the whole idea of on orbit refueling is something that only a couple of years ago, people were sort of waving their hands about it. Well, it's happening. There are companies out there that are doing that sort of thing. So that's just a really exciting time. And so aerospace has the opportunity to support not only our government customers directly and helping them with their technical challenges, and being able to marry up industry capability with the government mission, but at the same time, aerospace has that technical expertise after 60 years of supporting the space enterprise to help other segments of the space industry get off the ground, and that's the part that's really, really exciting.
Yeah. Cool.
So maybe I'd like to add a couple more examples in space assembly and manufacturing.
Yeah, please.
To bring a little bit more, even illustrating how real this is becoming. In fact, the Space Systems Command sponsored what's called an orbital prime phase 1 evaluation, would really do invigorate the ISAM market. And aerospace served as provided the assessment capability on hundreds of different proposals in those initial awards. And now we are partnering and working with the government to provide another capability called Technology Readiness Level Bootcamp. So that means that the future winners of these evaluation for this ISAM are going to have an opportunity to come into our laboratories and work with our subject matter experts and test out the capabilities. Because what's been a challenge sometimes is with these early technologies, they don't always mature into programs of record, into government programs. So this really important thrust that we have as part of our commercial space strategy is really to build confidence and get people into the labs and get those winners further along to have that technology readiness matured. And, the other thing that's exciting is, so we're doing all this work around sort of the early winners and the next phases to mature, but we're also working with Space Force now, because they are planning to put a new space access mobility and logistics program of record, real money, into the palm for the basic.
Sorry, say that again, a space access program.
Space access mobility and logistics.
Okay, explain that. What does that mean?
It's another word. It's sort of the Space Command's word for ISAM. You will hear a number of different acronyms in space assembly and manufacturing, on orbit space, assembly and manufacturing. And then the Space Systems Command is Space Access Mobility and Logistics.
They always got to be different, huh?
They got to be a little bit different, and there's a little bit of subtle differences, but for this purposes, a lot of the capability across our customer sets can be used. So they are planning on setting up a real program of record in that area in 25.
Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. And so in terms of all of those capabilities, there's also this idea that commercial companies are not just kind of driving the evolution of government programs, but also commercial companies are helping to drive and enable other commercial companies doing even new capabilities. So you guys kind of started tapping on that, but I'd love to dive into some of the satellite, the asteroid mining, or are we going to have a gas station in space where we can do that on orbit fuel? Are we going to have a pizza parlor in space where we pull up and get our pizza?
Yeah, and then and at some point those ingredients won't be coming from Earth, right? Will be you know, as I was saying earlier, really is kind of a, you can just imagine, you know, the explosion, if you will, not only just the interest in space, but the opportunity for all kinds of commercial companies, you know, companies that are not space related today, but realize that there is opportunity for them in space is, I think, what's so fantastic about it. So, you know, having you know, one area that's really growing, just as an example, is really more of, if you can think of space as a service. So, you know, it's not, this is a segment of the industry, if you will, that's forecasted to grow most rapidly. It's not, you know, for example, you know, let's say launch or building satellites, but it's, you know, space as a service, like, you know, for the refueling, if you will. You know, if a company has satellites up there for, you know, do they want to take care of the refueling? Is that something they want to outsource and just buy as a service? That's the kind of thing that we're going to see certainly more and more of that. So there's all kinds of opportunity, and that support infrastructure, right? Companies, as I said, who are not considering themselves space companies today may find opportunity there. And so that's, again, what makes this, you know, so exciting. And when you talk about companies helping other companies, you know, there's and just the whole, you know, value chain, and as Debra was saying about, you know, maturing capability. And, you know, as everyone knows, there's a lot of investment going into the space industry today. And so it's one of the areas, in fact, that that aerospace is involved in. So we've had opportunity to help some some venture capitalists, for example. I mean, if they're looking at startup firms, or they've got something in a company in their portfolio that they're considering a second round of funding, but they're not quite sure if that technology is mature enough or will be able to make it to market. So they've asked aerospace to come in and make an objective, independent assessment. Is this really technology that's ready for market? Is this, you know, the right amount of investment? Is it just not competitive? That kind of thing. So because of our technical expertise, we're able to give that sort of unbiased advice to venture capitalists, so they can preserve their capital and spend it where it's going to, you know, do the most good, or, you know, there'll be the most value. So that's just an example of where that's, you know, it's a business decision, but aerospace has provided technical input in that business decision in a very unbiased, you know, independent way. So again, just the opportunities are just, you know, just escalating all over the place. So.
Yeah, no. So going back to that, how you were saying that technology maturation process, going back to what Debra was saying, you talked about this competition and the TRL, the technical readiness levels, kind of supporting that for Space Force. So, or for defense, I should say. So tell us a little bit more about that, because DoD is relatively new to this kind of partnering game, whereas it seems like, anyway, civil or you know, NASA and all that, they've been partnering for a while with commercial, but DoD has some kind of unique circumstances that made it kind of late to the game. So what are those challenges, and then what successes have you seen lately?
Yeah, well, let's give a little bit of credit to DoD, though, because one area that they have actually had a long history in terms of buying commercial services has been in SATCOM. So that has been going on. The Defense Information Agency here, or Systems Agency, the DISA, has been doing that. But I would certainly say our customers are at different places on the maturity curve, if you will, from a customer adoption and readiness, if you think of it from a spectrum. And that's by our own assessment as well as their own admission. Let me start, though, in saying I think part of this is that you got to have the will, and I think all of our senior level customers have that will, but you need systems in place to help you with the way. And I think we are certainly hearing from all of the customer sets, and certainly the Space Force, Lieutenant General Gutlein's exploit what we have, buy what we can, and only build what we must. And really now that is part and parcel of the way the Space Force is needing to move. But you need to have, the architecture development, the requirements, the budgeting, the contract mechanisms, all of that also need to be sort of in place to be able to support that commercial adoption paradigm, and not just support those build of those purpose-built systems. And I think that's an area where, NASA and the Intel community are a little bit ahead. because I think, NASA has a rich history, of course, with the commercial crew and cargo program there with Space Act agreements in the FAR. But I think there's a lot of opportunity now with the DoD and with Space Force to really do this leveraging. They have a lot of new activities in place because, again, that has been a bit of the push there. They have an entity that was actually modeled after aerospace called the Front Door. They also, and the Front Door is a way to both connect externally to industry and then to bring that capability back from commercial to work insert into the programs of record. They're doing some new ways here in looking at force designs and architectures with more rapid cadence, another opportunity to really insert and look for commercial. And then again, the Commercial Services Office is a new office and it's newly scoped. So it expands from what was the comm office. And again, I mentioned the Defense Information Systems Agency. So Commercial Services Office builds from those earlier successes and really is looking to expand. So what's nice though, is because aerospace works with all the customer sets, we're able to work with the customers that perhaps are a little bit more mature and bring some of those insights and lessons in terms of how to structure things. So for example, we are working closely with the IC to take advantage of the NRO's long deals they've had with commercial providers for imagery, satellite imagery and electro-optical and radar. And so some of that insight in terms of the structures and the way to go about that, we can share there with our customer sets. So I think that's a pretty exciting time. And we'll be able to work across and share lessons across our customers and really help them all move forward to take advantage of the commercial.
Yeah, that's a unique position for aerospace, definitely.
Absolutely. And really, I think part of that value statement for us and why we're, really, I think so much of what we're offering in our commercial space strategy is really unique and builds on the capabilities of us being a FFRDC operator.
That's right. We're not commercial and we're not government.
Yeah, and I would offer, just to follow up to Deborah's statement there is that we are also learning, aerospace sometimes learns from industry. And so our ability to engage industry on a regular basis in terms of technology and innovation, other research entities from universities that we're engaged with on a regular basis. That just enriches our expertise and our ability to then pivot and support our government customers as well as industry. So, I think corporately, I think we are as pivoting just as quickly or more quickly sometimes than our government customers there to be out there, to be engaging and to be supportive, so that we can sort of smooth out, those that progress ramp when we're trying to get capability, when our government customers need to meet a mission with a capability or just a commercial enterprise and they're under time constraints and we're going to limit amount of budget funding, for whether it's Series A, Series B, that kind of thing.
Well, and talking about lessons learned, kind of taking aerospace out of the equation. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what kind of lessons learned and granted, I give that to the SATCOMs, Deborah. I'm sorry, I forgot that they have been doing it for a while, and I didn't realize that the office had expanded or kind of bore something new with the space services. But can you guys think of any lessons learned where maybe the things from civil side in terms of some partnering, some acquisition techniques or the space for services certainly has been something that has gone from civil to commercial. But can you think of any other lessons learned that maybe defense could glean from civil or even vice versa?
Well, I'll offer up a couple, and I might actually expand it beyond civil to say even from the intel community. I think that the strategic commercial enhancements broad agency announcement framework is a really nice way to be able to get and expand the reach to new space and new commercial companies, because the way the IC has structured those is sort of smaller dollar study type phases and then learning and then opportunities downstream to do more. So you kind of cast the net wide in some of those ways to be able to see what's out there, but then really make sure you have the systems in place to do things. I do certainly think there's lessons to be gleaned from COTS and commercial crew. I think what started as a hedge in the way they use the Space Act agreement and then pivoted.
Commercial off the shelf, right?
Right, commercial off the shelf. Well, actually, in this case, typically it means COTS, but in this case, it actually means the commercial, the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, COTS. So
Okay, got it.
so that was the way, basically the mechanism, the public-private partnership axis, where they basically use a Space Act agreement, try to create a way to create capability. And then once saw enough progress there, they pivoted to more federal acquisition, FAR-based types of contractual vehicles. So I think there's some things to be, gleaned in there in terms of the flexibility. And I know that the Commercial Services Office on the Space Systems Command side is also interested in looking at other agencies and how they've done some things in the contract side.
Yeah, I think, one thing that comes to mind in terms of just the differences between the two approaches, and, on the government side, government space has been around for decades, and they are very methodical. We've got a systems engineering approach to the point where, and a mission assurance, mindset and concept that is almost unsurpassed. Just a string of successes, after, kind of fixing and readjusting things that, a while back. And then you pivot over to what's going on the commercial side. And because of the economics and things have become, so cheap, if you will, in terms of, what the risk is and the cost to something going wrong, there tends to be more of a kind of a, people call it like a fail fast mentality. So you fail fast, you learn, and you get right back up, put something back up on the launch pad. There's benefits to both approaches, and I think it's getting that balance right. Sometimes, I think, on occasion, government will be, more structured in its approach, and on this notion, maybe they're just not quite moving fast enough. And then on the industry side, there tend to be maybe getting getting this reputation of just of feeling. I mean, we having several mishaps. So again, that balance is appropriate. I think both can learn from both. So, one of the things is, can industry maybe not fail quite so fast, right? And save that investment. So what is it? What are those kind of tweaks or changes in their processes that need to happen? And then on the government side, sort of the same thing. I mean, do we really need everything that we had been doing for the last couple of decades? And I would suggest, there are a lot of folks that are thinking about that now and sort of like retooling those processes and those workflows to be more efficient for, what we know, learning from our past, and being able to do things more quickly. So I think, in terms of the again, sort of coming together on this, that both sides can learn from each other.
Yeah, I think about the kind of the great government bureaucracy and how everything, moves slow as a tanker. And then, on the other side, you have commercial. And to me, it's, the failing is fine, but we can't waste the government tax money like that. Right? So, yeah. So I wanted to kind of move in a little bit, kind of fun things. You had talked about, Danielle, you had talked about the getting the balance right. So I wanted to kind of expand that, and maybe I'll let you take it first, Danielle. What are you most cautious about when it comes to partnering? What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for any of the players?
I think the partnership, I think, is going to be key, because we can't go alone. I mean, when you think about spaces for everybody, so just those boundaries, there are really no boundaries, if you will, and so partnering with other governments, companies partnering with each other. This is just something that's just so crucial at this stage. And so I think that is something that, I guess I'm, somewhat cautious about, if you will, that we really start making progress there. I think part of the challenge that industry has right now, and, kind of so is, governments are still kind of doing a little bit of catch up in what sort of regulation makes sense in space. And so figuring that out is something that needs to happen, certainly as soon as practical. And there's a lot of effort going on to that. And certainly our government customers are thinking a lot along those lines. So that is something that I think, I would say, somewhat cautious about, because I think that it right now is sort of a bit of an inhibitor on, on the industry growth and making progress in space. I think, there's a lot of opportunity, and being able to move forward with that, I think, is just key. And so having that partnership, though, between the government and industry. So that engagement between those two stakeholders within the space enterprise is just so key. And so, that there's a lot more of that happening now than there was 5 or 10 years ago, which is just, really exciting, and it's great to see. So that's the kind of thing, though, it needs to continue and accelerate to the extent that it can. Over.
Yeah. Getting pen to paper and actually getting the deals done. Yeah. Debra, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just building a little bit, I certainly think that piece that, the accelerating execution and helping with the regulation and the policy side and the standards and helping to accelerate that through and bring that thought leadership is a place where aerospace plays. And so I do agree with, Danielle's point there that that's going to be increasingly important. Kind of really helping, what are the barriers? Because there's some intent here, but what are the barriers? And some of them could be in the policy and the regulation. And so I think that's where some of our unique capability, again, with our economic market analysis and Center of Space Policy and Strategy, can bring some of that additional thought leadership there. So I think those certainly are some of the areas to be cautious. I mean, the other area is just because of the amount of the investment, because of the, so much innovation coming, we really need to help the government and ourselves in terms of the mechanisms here to really make sure we help them to triage and spending our, time on the right things, on those, in terms of structure and prioritization, because it's a lot of players out there. So really being able to have those initial intake meetings and really get, helping to vet the companies in the right ways and understanding the full, the full value about what they're offering and really understanding kind of where they are in it. Is it, are they looking for, government as that anchor? Is it that golden goose, or do they have a solid, viable business plan? So there's a lot in that space there to triage those opportunities.
Yeah, certainly. I've heard that before, that government as not just the anchor customer, but just one of many customers, and
That's
to do
right.
that, commercial has to have a viable program, right?
That's right, and that's really what you want to see, or you really want to go into it sort of eyes wide open and knowing really where funding is coming from and what those business plans look like, and I think that's another key area for us as part of our commercial strategy and our value prop.
Yeah. So then how about the most exciting thing? What are you most excited about, Danielle? It could be a new technology. It could be a specific milestone. It could be, the TechCrunch session. It could be pizza in space.
Yeah, no, pizza in space would be great. Or just the expansive space, to me, is just in terms of excitement, the size of space. And when was the last time humanity saw anything like this? And we talk about colonization, and people probably think about, colonizing areas that probably ended 100 or 200 years ago, right? Well, we're on the verge now of doing that again. And you think of what the colonists took with them, right? And then they had to make on their own. And that just opens up all kinds of opportunity. And that's something that just, for me, is very exciting. I think, for the corporation as well, we have a tremendous amount of space expertise. Part of what I'm really excited about too is bringing some of that space expertise as well to other industries. And that's always been, the big value of space for the last couple of decades, is all of this research then helping us here on Earth, right? And so, within aerospace, there's a tremendous amount of intellectual property, of just expertise, and being able to build upon those things and then transfer that to industry, that I think there's just untapped potential, and that in itself as well is something that I'm just really, really excited about, going forward. I think it's going to be an area that other industries that are, non-space industries, we have, an example of where we're supporting NASA and in terms of ensuring that the heat tiles on the shuttle, would be working adequately and they weren't damaged in any way. So we have this non-destructive engineering capability, evaluation capability, and that is something that is certainly applicable across several industries. And so, we've actually been able to, to kind of transfer that. And so that's just an example of something that, started, it was a challenge. It was a space challenge. And now we have this capability and this expertise, and we're transferring it to other industries that are benefiting from that. And so there's so many other examples like that, to be excited about.
Yeah. I mean, forget Tang. We've got non-destructible. Debra, how about you? What are you most excited about?
Well, I'm super excited about the fact that there's been such great investment in innovation in commercial, and that we have this opportunity, I think, to really pivot in new ways and support and be that enabler for the government. So I'm pretty excited about all of that. I do want to maybe close on a little less of a positive note, in that, quite frankly, there has been some real lessons learned through some of these crises too. Let's not forget here how commercial played such an important role even in this crisis with Ukraine, bringing commercial ComSat there as well as commercial ISR. So it is an absolutely exciting time here with commercial and government and the role that we can play. But there really is an imperative to help our customers and to help the government to bring more capability to bear. And, this crisis here just illustrates the fact that that speed and, that velocity and taking advantage of more commercial is really the other part of this important landscape.
Yeah, I think, and just to follow up on that, on the comment, Debra, I think the war in Ukraine is also kind of demonstrating, if you will, that so commercial has arrived, if you will, right? I mean,
yes,
that they are now really truly sort of if they weren't before, they are absolutely really need to be considered as a stakeholder in this space enterprise, a player. And so that's as well something that's very exciting. They bring so much to the table, and so whenever we're able to help bridge that gap between commercial and government mission, that's just an exciting place to be, and that's aerospace, right? So I think I think with the coming of the commercial space industry and what it brings to the table, in terms of the technology and the innovation, but also the impact on government missions, government influence, I think it's just so exciting about opportunities going forward. So a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, thank you both. And thanks for mentioning how commercial has really played a role in that conflict in Ukraine. So, okay, well, thank you, Danielle, Debra, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope we check back with you after the TechCrunch space session and see how things went. Voice of the Warfighter. I think we're also going to be talking about the Space Workforce 2030 pledge that a lot of aerospace companies are signing in terms of growing and diversifying the space workforce. So it should be a great event. Thank you to our viewers and listeners for joining us today. Remember, all of the shows are available to watch or listen to the next day after they're released. Just go to the events webpage from our website, csps.aerospace.org. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, get everything you need about our shows, our other events, as well as our research papers as they come out. You can get instant notifications about upcoming episodes by following us on YouTube or actually any podcast platform. We're on all the major ones. And the amazing James Liggins is our technical director. Thank you. And until next time, everyone.